I'm Councillor Julie Grace, Chair of Full Council, and I would like to welcome you all to the Full Council meeting. Please be seated. This meeting is proceeding on the basis that all elected members have read their agenda papers and understand the business on today's meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice, but in the event of hearing the fire alarm, please leave the chamber and turn right, proceed down the stairway through the emergency exit on the ground floor. Please assemble in the public square in front of Cast beyond the fountain. Anybody with mobility issues should wait in the refuge area near the lift and use the intercom to call for assistance. This meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's YouTube channel. By entering the Council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the Council. If anyone is intending to record or film any part of today's meeting, please ensure this does not disturb proceedings. Please ensure mobile phones are switched to silent. Item 1. I have received apologies for absence from Councillors Laney Mayball, Nigel Ball, Joe Blackham, Nigel Cannings, Ken Guest, Debbie Hutchinson, Andy Pickering, Rob Reid, Sarah Smith, Austin White, Emma Muddyman Rawlins. Is there any more apologies to add?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Councillor Majid Khan.
Oh, thank you.
Tom Noon. Thomas Noon.
Alan Jones, please.
Is that so? Right, item 2, to consider the public and press are to be excluded from this meeting. There are no exemptions on today's agenda. Item 3. If anyone has any interest in any items on today's agenda, please, can they declare it now or as soon as it becomes known to them? Members are reminded of the advice that has recently been issued by the Monitoring Officer in respect of the budget items on today's agenda. Any member with a declarable interest, including those with a dispensation which allows them to remain in the meeting and participate and vote, should make the declaration now. Can I just go to Scott Focus first to come in on this, please?
I thought it'd be handy just to cover off the contents of that note I sent to you, because it may be that not everyone's had a chance to see it. In relation to agenda items 9, 10 and 11, which would be the capital strategy and capital budget, the Treasury management statement and the revenue budget, you won't need to declare an interest. That's because the budget is so large, it is bound to cover something that is an interest to everybody in here. So unless there were to be an amendment which had something very specifically relating to your interests, you do not have to say anything in relation to those items. The difference here is that in item 12, the housing revenue account budget and rent setting, if you are a council tax, if you are a council tenant, St Ledger Homes tenant, you will have to make a declaration of a disclosable pecuniary interest, or if you live with a council council tenant, you'll have a disclosable pecuniary interest. If you have a relative, close friend or associate who is a tenant, you should say, I have a non-registrable interest in agenda item 12 as my relative, friend or close associate is a St Ledger Homes tenant. I can't tell you what a close friend means. That will be something for you to decide. I would suggest it would be the closest of your friends rather than your 1,000 Facebook friends that you may have if you're younger. Unfortunately, I have to leave that to your own discretions, but that's the kind of thing you're looking at. You're looking at your very, very closest of friends rather than someone you happen to have met. Obviously happy to answer any specific questions, but I hope that covers. what you need.
And do they have to verbalise this now? Right, so can I ask any member who have a declaration to complete the declaration of interest form and submit one to the governance officers after the meeting? Thank you. So can I say it for them and then they say it? Is that, they've got to say it for it. Right, we'll take it from the top then. So, Councillor Durant, please.
Non-registrable interest in agenda item 12 as a relative is a Setlanger home tenant.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah. I have a interest in agenda number 12 as a relative is a St Ledger Homes tenant. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
I have a non-registrable interest in item 12 due to a family member being a St Ledger tenant. Thank you.
Councillor Holbrook.
Thank you, Chair. I have a non-registrable interest in agenda item 12 due to having a relative who was a St Ledger tenant.
Councillor Cox, did you want something else or did you want to just register?
Register, please. And... All right, sorry, I didn't realise there were a list.
Okay. Oh, nobody went.
Yeah, a non-what's it one from family member.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, right. Is it still not working? Is this...
Oh. So I wish to disclose a pecuniary interest on item 12 as being a St Ledger tenant.
Thank you. Right, just give me the next person on that list. Don't say anything else, just the names. Yeah, Councillor Chapman, please.
I wish to declare a pecuniary interest in item 12 as a St Ledger tenant. Thank you.
Councillor Allen, please.
I wish to disclose a pecuniary interest in item 12 as I live with a St Ledger tenant in a St Ledger property, but I'm not the tenant.
Councillor Dixon.
I declare a non-registrable interest in item 12 as I have relatives who are St Ledger tenants.
Right, I think that concludes my list. Is there anybody else? Thank you. Item 4, minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of January 2025. Do we agree that they are a true and accurate record? All agreed? Thank you. Item 5, a vote of thanks to the Bishop of Coventry, former Bishop of Doncaster, the Right Reverend Sophie Jelly. I would like to ask members to join me in passing on our vote of thanks to the former Bishop of Doncaster, the Right Reverend Sophie Jelly, who has taken up a new position as Bishop of Coventry. Bishop Sophie, as you move on to your new chapter in your life, we would like to thank you for the immense contribution you have made in our community whilst serving as Bishop of Doncaster. For the past 5 years, you have supported, guided, mentored and advised countless individuals and groups, and the impact that you will have made will continue to benefit our community for many years to come. You have been an excellent ambassador and a passionate advocate for Doncaster, and a good friend and tremendous supporter of this council, attending many civic events over the years, which we have greatly appreciated. Bishop Sophie, before I formally propose a vote of thanks, would you like to say a few words?
I would, if that's all right, and I will be brief. So how will I remember you, Doncaster? I still can't say Doncaster, and people tell me off about it all the time, but I'm a Brighton girl, so I'm really sorry about that. So what does Doncaster mean to me? I've written something for you here. D, down to earth, Donny feels like home. O, optimistic, you make the best of things. N, nicely northern, thank you for adopting this soft southerner. C, compassionate, you care. A, ambitious. You go for it constantly. S, strong. Nothing's going to stop you. T, tenacious. You've got grip. E, expectant. The future is bright. R, resilient. As Bear Grylls would say, storms only make you stronger. Doncaster, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It has been a real privilege to be your bishop for the past 5 years, and I shall miss you.
Thank you, Bishop Sophie. So, on behalf of the Council, I wish to formally record a vote of thanks for your valued services to the city. Is that agreed? Agreed. Right, item 6. I wish to announce that I have chosen Ryan Oldfield from Mental Health FC as the recipient of the Civic Mayor's Award 2025-26. Mental Health FC is a fantastic organisation which puts on football sessions for adults. Following a relaxed kickabout, there is an opportunity to meet afterwards and socialise. This creates a right environment to provide physical fitness, support on mental health and a chance to socialise to make new friends. The core values of this group is for men's mental health. I have always been a keen supporter on events in my ward and particularly those that focus on improving mental health. From my own experiences and observations of organising and taking part in community events, encouraging men to talk about their mental health has always been a challenge. Mental Health FC addresses this by providing a safe environment for men to come together and talk. These sessions are open to all adults, however, not just men, and Ryan has done a great job expanding his session across the borough and reaching out and providing mental health support to our communities. An event has been arranged over the coming weeks where I will formally present Ryan with an award for his valued services to our communities. Thank you. Mayor Jones, I understand that you would like to make an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to give Council an update in relation to our South Yorkshire Airport City programme to reopen our airport. Earlier this month, I announced our partnership with Munich Airport International, who are partnering with us and will provide operational and management services, and FP Airports Limited, aviation sector specialist in the UK, as we work to reopen our airport in spring 2026. We have also had our Chancellor speak out in support of our airport and pledge to work with us to make our vision a reality. I cannot overstate the amount of work that has already been completed, but there is more work to do, and we are continuing at pace. We are currently in discussion with government around a number of areas, including regaining our airspace, plans around the investment zone, and of course around potential additional funding. We're not just looking for others to support the opening of the airport, as we are backing ourselves. Within the reports before us today for approval, there is 10 million to support the mobilisation process. This is scheduled to be used in order to undertake building works on the site and buy equipment that will be needed to run the airport. There is also the 10 million that was recently approved by Simca as an initial drawdown of our gain share funding. This upfront 20 million will also have the added benefit of reducing the gain share requirements and the projected overall costs. I'm pleased that our partners, Munich Airport International, gave interviews last week where they said they are confident it will be financially viable. Doncaster Airport will be a regional asset, driving economic opportunity and prosperity across the north, but this is our airport and Doncaster will lead the way. The amount of business interest is incredible and we are continuing at pace to get our airport open in spring 2026. In terms of airlines, as a council, we have maintained communication with a number of airlines throughout this process. And now Munich Airport International are now leading on this on our behalf. We expect a minimum of 4 to 5 airlines, and that is what we will be working towards over time. Obviously, I can't name any of these at this stage, but it's no secret that 2 have expressed an interest and that we are currently engaging with them. Our full business case has been submitted to South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority and will be considered alongside the independent assessment by Bradshaw's, which is nearing completion as outlined in the recent Simca report. As per the Subsidy Advice Unit report, which stated, in our view, the assessment demonstrates that the Council has considered other options for reopening the airport and clearly explains and evidence why a subsidy was the most appropriate option to achieve this outcome. Now, with our operational partners on board, we will be working through the many business interests we've received to determine which of these should be taken forward to use the existing infrastructure on site and develop further. We also will be working with the Civil Aviation Authority and Department of Transport to secure our airspace. So there is lots to do as we move into this mobilisation phase. Exciting times are ahead, and I will keep you updated as we progress on this incredible journey. Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor Jones. Deputy Mayor, do you have announcements?
I have no announcements, Chair, thank you.
Is there any other Cabinet members with an announcement? Thank you. Item 7, questions from the public. Oh, where have I missed? Oh, Chief Executive, I believe you wish to make an announcement.
Thank you, Chair. Today is the last full council meeting of the municipal year and, of course, the electoral term. And as such, I hope you'll indulge me, Chair, should I go slightly over my allotted time. We're constantly reminded by commentators that we live in volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous times. So the phrase, we live in interesting times, may be somewhat of an ironic understatement, particularly given the global events of the last few weeks. I want to counter this somewhat negative narrative by talking briefly about 3 words: gratitude, optimism, and hope. So the first of these words, gratitude. I recently read a book with this title where the author saw his life as an enormous privilege and adventure. Perhaps for some of you, this is a little bit like how you view your life in public service. So, Chair, although I know there is an item for a vote of thanks later in the agenda, I would like, on behalf of my executive leadership team and the rest of the council staff, to say thank you to all of you for your public service, particularly those who are stepping down at the forthcoming elections. I believe passionately in local democracy and want to acknowledge the often difficult, challenging, but critical and worthwhile role that you have all performed on behalf of your residents. It has been and is deeply appreciated. Personally, I'd also want to thank the Council for again lighting up the Mansion House red for International Encephalitis Day on the 22nd of February, and for the Doncaster Free Press for covering it, to raise awareness of this still misunderstood and frequently fatal condition where earlier diagnosis saves lives. Now to my second word, optimism. At the AGM last year, I referenced Lord Graham Kirkham's, our newest Freeman's, acceptance speech, which was nicely summed up in his phrase, Doncaster's best days lie ahead of us. As a lifelong successful Doncaster businessman, he has what 85% of all successful business people have, which is a healthy dose of optimism. I confess, therefore, to also being an optimist, not a blind optimist, but an eyes wide open, realistic optimist. And as mentioned, the world never proceeds in a smooth trajectory or a regular cycle. Otherwise, it would be predictable, and we'd have no need to be optimistic, or indeed, reason to be pessimistic. What happens in the future is linked to what we do in the present. So we have to act now to bring it about. This year, it is 10 years since I started working for the council in my then role as a Director of Children's Services. And since I became the Chief Executive almost 6 years ago, This is a council that is led with moral purpose, driven by its values, despite the many challenges, be it living on the front line of climate change with floods and wildfires, the enormous impact on our community of COVID, the cost of living crisis, and winter or budget pressures. Moreover, whilst we are not perfect, and there's certainly more to do, there have been many things we've acted upon that make me feel optimistic about the future. Because this is a council that gives the best start in life to children and families. This is a council that listens to and understands how its communities and neighbourhoods feel and acts upon this. This is a council that strives to be the best place to do business, working in partnership with our Chamber of Commerce. And today's biggest ever business showcase demonstrates this. And this is a council that works in close partnership with its Team Doncaster public, private and voluntary sector partners to maximise the benefits to its citizens. And this is a council that chooses kindness and compassion in caring for its most vulnerable members of society to keep them and our places safe and clean. And this is a council that learns by doing, is well led, financially managed and with good performance, and has a great workforce that makes me feel proud to call them my colleagues. To my final word, hope. Earlier this month, Bishop Sophie hosted a final breakfast networking event at Doncaster College, and during her time with us, it has become a must-go-to event. So I'd also like to add my sincere and profound thanks to Bishop Sophie for the incredible difference she has made to the spiritual and civic life of Doncaster during her tenure. She has quite literally inspired hope. Indeed, this was the word and the question she exhorted us to consider in that final breakfast session. What is your one big hope for Doncaster? Chair, as we finish one electoral term and look forward with hope to the next, I'll finish with my favourite quote on hope. Hope is not a state of mind, not of the world. Because none of us know all the potentialities that slumber in the spirit of the population, or all of the ways in which that population can surprise us when there's the right interplay of events. Chair, my one big hope for this great city of Doncaster in the next 4 years is that the right interplay of events occurs so its people can surprise us and that they and this place can flourish. Because together, we are Doncaster. Thank you for your indulgence, Chair.
Thank you. Item 7, questions from the public. There is one question on today's agenda from Mr Doug Wright to Mayor Jones. I shall read out the question and allow Mayor Jones to respond. And if Mr Wright is in the chamber, yeah. You will be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question following Mayor Jones's response. The question is, will the Mayor agree to change City of Doncaster Council's constitution, if it needs to be changed, to allow Doncaster's residents to put forward questions about our city to a Doncaster People's Question Time? This could be similar to London People's Question Time, which previously has been held about every 6 months in an evening from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. This would be a good opportunity this year to discuss Doncaster Sheffield Airport. Mayor Jones, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question, Mr Wright. I do not believe we need to change our constitution for this. I already regularly meet the mayor sessions where residents can meet with me to discuss issues or concerns, alongside opportunities such as this where members of the public can ask questions at full council or cabinet meetings. I also regularly meet with residents on the doorstep in our communities and across our business community. I also receive roughly 250 emails per week, many of which are asking questions or coming forward with casework. In relation to your suggestion of a Doncaster People's Question Time, I will take this away for consideration with the intention to trial something like this in the new municipal year, should I be privileged to be re-elected by our residents. Thank you, Mr Wright.
Mr. Wright, would you like to ask a supplementary question? Can I just remind you that your supplementary question should not be a statement and must arise directly out of the original question or the reply given. Thank you.
I couldn't quite hear that, but I get good.
Your supplementary...
I understand what you mean.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, can I just say this document, I needed to say this document is very good, but we need it just more than a quarter of an hour before we get the question asked, because this is important. Most people find it difficult to answer something from the Mayor, which can be complicated, and they need to have it perhaps a day in advance. As far as the question is concerned, I thank you for your question, Mayor Jones. I'm very pleased to see that you've taken away the consideration to trial something like a question time new municipal year. I think it is important, and the question is not only we hope you do that, that you will have also do it within a fairly strict time limit, because as I mentioned in the actual question, Doncaster Sheffield Airport can be discussed various ways, such as in a big hall or even a Doncaster Football Club, whatever. I think the importance of the issue is so there, it'd be ideal that you'll be there answering the questions of the public in a normal, controlled basis, which all members of the public will be invited to where possible. Thank you.
Can I just point out the document that he was referring to was the written response? Right. Would you like to reply, Mayor Jones?
As I've said, when we get into the municipal year, much will depend if I'm privileged enough to be re-elected, but of course I will consider it, because the airport is crucial to our economy of Doncaster, South Yorkshire and wider afield, so I would always be delighted. But people have never been prevented from coming to ask questions. Thank you for your question, Mr. Wright.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Wright. Item 8, moving on, the corporate plan. Can I invite Mayor Ross Jones to propose this item? Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Today, we are receiving the Council's corporate plan for 25-26. This document sets out the Council's contribution to the Team Doncaster Borough strategy for the next financial year. City of Doncaster Council remains heavily invested in the Team Doncaster partnership ambitions, and across 24-25 have continued to make significant contributions across all policy and thematic areas. For example, under the Tackling Climate Change theme, as we work towards net zero, we have further reduced our carbon emissions, administered low-carbon grants to businesses, and continued investment of resources into electric vehicle charging bays, home energy efficiency grants and tree planting. When it comes to skills development, we've hosted our second Remake Learning Festival with thousands of residents taking part, improved mentoring opportunities through the Zero Gravity programme, and facilitated supported internships for people with special educational needs and disabilities. Further progress to reopen our airport, remediation work at the waterfront site and progression of plans for our new Gateway 1 building are examples of how we've supported our economic ambitions. This is in addition to ongoing support to businesses and residents through our Business Doncaster service. For example, administration of business productivity and digitalisation grants, the Launchpad programme for business startups, and business forums and showcase events to develop and enhance partnerships and promote Doncaster businesses. Under the Healthier and Happier Borough theme, we've developed and launched a new health and wellbeing strategy, continued our Choose Kindness movement and Ageing Well delivery plans, and further developed the physical education and active schools network. We've further embedded our localities work model across the borough in order to help our communities safer, stronger, cleaner, greener. also securing additional funding to tackle homelessness, improving our community parks and tackling antisocial behaviour. To help nurture a child and family-friendly borough, we've supported school holiday activity programmes and food and clothing banks, and delivered training to organisations to help them to become more child-friendly. We continue to promote the borough and its culture, sport and heritage offer through a variety of events, and have invested significant funding into the maintenance and restoration of heritage locations. For example, the walled garden at Cusworth Hall. As well as reviewing progress and celebrating achievements, at this stage of the year, we also look forward to the next year and set out our ambitions and commitments in a new corporate plan. The 25-26 plan identifies key corporate priorities that will represent our borough's strategy contributions for this year, including our 6 Doncaster priorities that contribute to the ambitions set out in the borough strategy. As is always the case, we ensure that our ambitions and intended activity are evidence-led and informed by views and insights from our residents and business community. We also ensure they are practical and determined with available resources in mind. This is why the corporate plan is presented alongside my budget proposals. I would like to thank the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee for their feedback, which has been taken into account within the updated corporate plan before us for approval. I ask for full council to support this plan so that we can continue delivering for Doncaster. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. If any member wishes to speak on this item, please indicate by pressing the button on your console once. Okay. Councillor Hemshaw.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to say that I am pleased to see that the fair and inclusive ethos remains an integral part of this council's corporate plan. I am proud of the work done to ensure that this council is inclusive of race, gender, sexuality or ability. A corporate plan that embraces diversity and values everyone, whoever you are. Thank you.
Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to welcome the Council's commitment in the corporate plan to have the third corporate policy as renew our city and town centres as they are places to be proud of. This includes a commitment to improve visible presence of council officers and to improve cleanliness in the city centre. As a councillor for the town ward, which includes the city centre, I am already proud of our city centre, as well as the people who work here, who shop here and who live here. If I'm privileged enough to be re-elected in May, I will look forward to working with the Council and Mayor Jones to deliver this priority, as well as the station gateway construction and waterfront east developments listed in the capital strategy and capital budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak before I offer Mayor Jones the right of reply? Mayor Jones.
I thank you all for those words. More importantly, it's up to us all to deliver for our people and for our businesses. So therefore, I ask that it goes to the vote of approval.
It has been moved and seconded that the corporate plan be approved. Is that agreed? Agreed. The corporate plan 2025 to 2026 is approved. Item 9, capital strategy and capital budget. May I remind members that there is a legal requirement to include in the minutes how each elected member has voted on decisions related to the budget and council tax. Therefore, agenda items 9 to 13 will be subject to a recorded vote, which will be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Can I invite Mayor Jones to introduce this item? Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the capital strategy and capital budget for the next 4 years, 25-26 to 28-29. This council continues to invest in the future of Doncaster despite the tough economic climate, with 502.3 million of capital investment planned over the next 4 years that will continue to stimulate growth and prosperity, with 214.5 million of investment planned for 25-26. We are investing in projects to further improve core services such as education, housing, infrastructure, leisure and culture, as well as attracting investors and visitors to Doncaster. Some areas of investment over the 4 years include 69.9 for new council housing, enabling us to deliver quality homes, help to tackle homelessness and provide affordable social housing. 141 million for council house improvement and maintenance. 24.5 for construction for the Station Gateway development, which includes a highly sustainable modern office development to include modern technologies such as artificial intelligence and innovation, plus new public realm acting as an extension to the railway station forecourt. 5.2 million for the Waterfront East development, including the remediation of one of the largest brownfield sites in the country. The site will have the potential to attract a number of transformational developments and additional opportunities to develop the marina. 8.8 for flood prevention, works to improve flood defences in the areas identified with the greatest need, including Bentley, Conisbrough and Bawtry. 17.6 million to create additional school places, including Hatwell Wood, Armthorpe Academy, the Hayfield School and Rosington All Saints. 27.1 for Doncaster leisure centres, enabling improvements at the Dome, Thorn, Dearne Valley, Adwick and a brand new fully funded 8.2 million leisure facility in Edlington, which will include a swimming pool and gym. 18.9 million for highway maintenance for resurfacing schemes, preventative maintenance treatments and local routine maintenance works across Doncaster highway networks. I ask that the Council supports my capital budget proposals so that we can continue to deliver for Doncaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Is that seconded? Thank you. If any member wishes to speak on this item, can you indicate by pressing the red button on your console? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. This week, I launched free swimming for all Mexborough residents at Dearne Valley Leisure Centre, funded through my ward member's budget. The feedback I have had has been fantastic and very well received. One negative has popped up quite frequently is that the centre is very tired and in need of a good makeover. So on behalf of the local people, I would like to thank Mayor Ross for recognising this and investing 1.8 million into our well-used facility. Thank you.
Councillor Knowles.
As a prospective candidate for Bessica, I'm delighted to see over £12 million has been allocated to renovating the Dome, which will be of great benefit to both Doncaster residents and visitors to Doncaster, providing opportunities to live healthier and happier lives. The Dome is the largest single source of income for Doncaster Culture and Leisure Trust, helping to support the wider leisure centres across Doncaster. Thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you. I'd like to say a big thank you really to the capital programme, because Asken Lake is a real feature to Asken. People who from far and wide come to visit it, and a lot of renovation has been done on this lake, but it was incomplete in the fact that there's a lot of silt in it. I'm glad to see that we have set aside £0.2 million to dredge this lake. It has become dangerous. If a child should fall in, then there could be a nasty disaster. So I'm very pleased to see that that money is forthcoming and it's set out in here how it will be done, because I know the first question will be are they closing the lake or are they filling it in? And also, as well, on this capital programme, and this applies to a lot of places around here, the retained buildings budget, I see that Spiders Children's Centre, along with a lot of others, is to receive money to upgrade it. It's a wonderful place. It's well used, but it is looking a bit tired. So I thank the Mayor for that and for that contribution. Thank you.
Councillor Nevitt.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to see improvements in recent years in my ward of Edenthorpe and Kirk Sandal, which has seen investment in improved vehicle and cycle parking facilities at the railway station and path improvements for safe cycling designated cycleways. We have also seen some of our residential streets progress with 20-mile-an-hour zones and traffic calming to reduce excessive speed and improve road safety for all. These improvements for my constituents of Edenthorpe and Kirk Sandal are greatly appreciated and hope the improvements will continue. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to welcome initially the almost £1.1 million investment to improve the Royal Estate in Edlington. I know that residents and landlords have already begun to notice improvements to this neighbourhood, which has benefited from a focused board of stakeholders and Doncaster partners, the Edlington Regenerative Neighbourhood Board. And I think it's been doing remarkable work, and it's shown that you can achieve results without large amounts of money. But I would like to also commend this report for the £8.2 million invested in a new Edlington leisure facility, a pool, a 35-station gym, a cafe, viewing gallery. I think it'll be very welcome by the community. And I would, if you'll forgive me, Chair, point out that not once but twice this council was refused funding by the Conservative government for this very project. And having been let down twice by the last government, they have now found a Labour mayor in Doncaster delivering a project that will be really appreciated by the community. And if I may say, if you walk around Edlington and Warmsworth, you will find that almost every substantial building of use to the community, the secondary school, the health centre and library, and now the leisure centre, have been provided by Labour administrations, and the Conservative government over 14 years offered precisely nothing to Edlington or Warmsworth in terms of any meaningful investment. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to speak about Armthorpe. I would like to thank the Council for additional bungalows in Armthorpe that will provide homes for residents and families in need, and also the positive news about additional places at Armthorpe Academy. I would also like to acknowledge the additional funding to provide new school places in Armthorpe, as was said. I welcome the funding for breakfast clubs, 8 locations across the city of Doncaster, including Shorewood Academy in Armthorpe. This scheme will provide vital support to children and families by ensuring that students start their day with a healthy breakfast that improves concentration, learning outcomes and overall well-being. Importantly, these clubs would also help parents by easing the pressures of the morning routine, ensuring children get to school on time and enabling parents to get to work more easily. Supporting working families in this way strengthens our community and our local economy. I am pleased to see investment in Shorewood Academy, ensuring local children benefit directly. I look forward to seeing the positive impact of this initiative and encourage further investment in similar schemes. Labour will invest in our future by investing in our children. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Chair. I really just would like to recognise the investment that's going into Rosington and Bawtry ward, right across the ward. The Mayor did mention in terms of flood prevention, parts of Bawtry have really suffered with that over a number of years. So I'm sure it's something that residents will be really grateful to see. Also in Rosington ward, investment in Rosington Hub, which follows on the back of a fantastic new gym, which is really well used by residents at all times of the day. Investment in our swimming pool, and like other colleagues, we've been able to use our ward members' budget to provide a subsidised swim, which has been really well recognised, and perhaps something that people don't pick up, but in terms of funding to the cemetery extension, which has been much needed as well. So just like to recognise the investment that's going right across Rosington, Bawtry and Austerfield ward. Thank you.
Councillor Jane Cox.
Chair, I just wanted to ask when full council became a party political broadcast for candidates in the local elections, because it just seems we're going round in circles congratulating each other on spending money in our own wards.
They are actually commenting on the capital strategy and capital budget.
That's
they are,
fine.
Councillor. Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Nick Allen, is this about the strategy?
It is,
Thank
yes.
you.
It is. I would like to propose that we rename the strategy to Let's Guess Which Councillors Are Worried About Losing Their Seats in May.
That's enough. Thank you very much. We're moving on now. Is anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Bluff, is it about the strategy?
Of course.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I'm disappointed that you thought it wouldn't be. Just to pick up on some items from the strategy, I'm disappointed to see that there's virtually no funding for Melton Woods, which is an absolute jewel of my ward, and there's virtually no funding for that in here. In 3 of the 4 years, there's no funding whatsoever, and it's not been maintained for decades now, and it's falling apart. And I'm just really disappointed to see that. I'm disappointed to see that there's such little funding for fixing all the potholes we've got in our area, and for the footbridge that needs replacing in Barbara and Harlington. That's not included in here. And also, I'm disappointed to see that we're not ripping up the pedestrian areas in the town centre to get people back into the town centre and stop everyone from leaving.
Councillor Steve Cox.
Thank you. I will actually say thank you, Ross. And it's for recognising what we have been saying for many years with the 106 for Warren Park, where with building an extension to Archer Wood. But it's a shame it's taken all these years to listen to us and education to listen to us, that there is a need for education within our ward. The monies didn't need to be spent if the 106 would have been followed, because there was a parcel of land to do exactly this. So it's taken 8 years to listen to us when we could have saved you money. But there you go.
If any other members wishing to speak, Councillor Durant.
Thank you. I've been waiting patiently. So, on behalf of the residents of Thorne and Moor Ends, I'd like to place on record our thanks for the additional investment into the leisure centre, including the wellbeing hub at Thorne. In relation to the wider scheme, how did it evolve from being a maintenance and repair project to the now full scheme, which is progressing, which will include a soft play area and bowling alley? Because I remember the meetings, my colleagues, Councillor Blackham and Councillor Holbrook, with officers 2017-18 regarding this initiative starting, and it has progressed, and we are appreciative for what's going to be delivered. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak before I give Mayor Jones the right to respond? No. Right, thank you. Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I believe the capital budget that's been put forward actually identifies the highest need that we need to be putting money in. And I'm actually shocked that you haven't put forward a capital programme if you thought those areas were so important. We've actually used the funding that's been made available to us. And this has been a very difficult process because we know we've got to prioritise. We'd have loved to come forward with so much more, but you will see that we are spending more on the highways than we've ever done. It's the first time that we've had additional funding to look where we're going to bring monies forward. But please put forward your comments because, as I've always said to you throughout the year, put them forward and we'll look to contribute where we can. But I'm delighted that the others are saying the same. So I hear what you say. I will answer the specific in respect of Thorne. And really, the details would be better answered by the Cabinet Member for Public Health and Leisure, Councillor Nigel Bull, but he's not, unfortunately, with us today. But I can say that as part of our continued commitment to investing in leisure centres, we are investing where we can to both increase revenue and reduce costs. Councils up and down the country are closing leisure centres or reducing opening times to try and balance their budgets, whereas in Doncaster, we are being entrepreneurial and investing to save. By adding a bowling alley and soft play area at Thorn Wellbeing Hub, it will increase revenue that will support the wider centre. The Thorn scheme has sadly been delayed due to a number of factors, including the availability of materials and labour, as well as the fire that damaged the roof early in 2023. We did, however, complete phase 1 of works last year, which saw the renovation of the pool hall, pool tank and changing rooms, along with a new reception area and viewing gallery. And I also want to say, as far as our leisure centres are concerned, we want to keep as many and keep them active, because we know here in Doncaster, health is not as good as it should be. This gives everyone of all ages a chance to utilise them in order to get fitter and healthier. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The recommendation in the report which seek to approve for the capital strategy and capital programme budget proposals have been moved and seconded. We shall now move to vote. Remember, green button to vote yes, red button to vote no, white button to abstain. I am now opening the vote. Please vote now. I am now closing the vote. The motion is carried by 31 votes yes, 8 votes no, 0 abstentions. That's right. The capital strategy and budget proposals, as detailed in the recommendations, are approved. Item 10, the Treasury Management Strategy Statement. Can I invite Mayor Ros Jones to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the strategy for management of the Council's finances and provides a framework for the operation of Treasury management function within the Council. Treasury management seeks to optimise the Council's cash flow and secure the most effective arrangements to support the long-term funding requirement. Key prudential indicators relate to borrowing limits are detailed in the report. There have been no significant changes to the report this year, and the key issue to take from the report is that we remain under-borrowed and continue to use our internal resources, that's reserves and balances, to reduce the need to borrow whilst interest rates remain high. Thank you, Chair.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to welcome the report and say that although it's one of the more technical documents that councillors have to consider, it's an absolutely vital function within the council. Our council cash flow, its management of debt, its borrowing for key projects, its funding of day-to-day spending is all governed by the rules that are laid out in this document. And I just wanted to stress that our council, apart from being, every council has a ceiling up to which it can borrow, and we're substantially under-borrowed as a local authority. But also, councillors will have noticed just in the past week that 31 local authorities received urgent exceptional support from government because in the past few years, they had been brought to the brink of collapse. And those authorities, one or two of them, it would appear to me, forgive me for saying, were just reckless in their investments, but a number of them were simply substantially underfunded for far too long and faced too many pressures on their services. In contrast to that, this authority, under the leadership of Mayor Jones, is exceptionally well run, exceptionally well financially managed and governed, and it's the quality of the work that goes into this kind of report which is difficult for people to picture, but actually does demonstrate what a very good, well-managed and value for money authority we are. And I would commend all of the staff that play a role behind the scenes in keeping this council so well managed.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this report? Right. Mayor Jones, do you wish your right to exercise your right of reply?
No, I simply ask people to support this report and approve it. Thank you.
The Treasury Management Strategy Statement, the prudential indicators and the minimum revenue provision as detailed in the recommendations have been moved and seconded. We shall now move to the vote. I am now opening the vote. Press your voting buttons. I am now closing the vote. The motion is carried by 31 yes votes, no abstentions and 8 no votes. The Treasury Management Strategy Statement, prudential indicators and minimal revenue provision recommendations detailed in the report are approved. Item 11, the revenue budget. Can I invite Mayor Jones to introduce this item? Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. My budget proposals mark the beginning of a new chapter for Doncaster as we rebuild our public services after 14 years of Conservative cuts. There are still challenges, but we enter this new chapter with additional funding locally to enable us to commence investment in key services that matter to our residents and businesses. Despite the significant financial challenges, my proposals set a balanced budget whilst maintaining investment in the borough and protecting the most vulnerable in our communities. This council now has 20% less to spend on services in real terms than it did in 2010-11, which represents a £294 reduction per resident. We are, however, in a significantly better position than we were this time last year due to increased government funding. This budget provides sufficient resources to enable frontline services to continue to deliver at their current service levels, despite increased service pressures and rising costs. There remains a great deal of uncertainty in relation to adults and children's social care costs and long-term funding for local authorities. Despite facing pressures and inflation totalling 62 million over 3 years, a more positive financial settlement has been received from government that in recent years, as well as continued strong financial management, means that the services are not required to identify additional savings. In addition, we have identified additional funding to support the following priorities. 1, 3 million for neighbourhood renewal to support regeneration of town centre high streets across Doncaster, such as Asken, Bentley and Conisbrough. Further details on this will be announced in due course, but schemes will be drawn up in consultation with local residents and businesses, with investment in areas such as shop frontage schemes, improved access to parks and green spaces, enhanced sports facilities, community events and new seating and public realm, to give a few examples. 0.5 million for the city centre to continue tackling safety and security concerns ahead of the long-term plan for towns and community regeneration partnership funding due to commence in 26-27. 1.5 million for enterprise grants to support Doncaster residents to set up their own business and support existing businesses to expand. And 1 million for a youth offer, which will deliver increased officer resource over the next 3 years, alongside once again providing a universal offer in addition to holiday activities fund scheduled for 25-26. Doncaster will continue to have one of the lowest council tax overall in comparison to other councils of a similar size in the country, and the lowest in Yorkshire. Doncaster is an incredibly well-managed council, which is why we are still able to deliver the services we do for one of the lowest council tax in the country. We are also a caring council, which is why we are committed to protecting the most vulnerable. And whilst many councils have amended their local council tax reduction scheme, our policy continues to provide a much-needed safety net for those who are most vulnerable and on the lowest income, including pensioners, single parents, and those with complex needs or disabilities. We know more difficult decisions are still to come, but we know we can now look forward to a fairer future for local government funding. Fairer funding and multi-year settlements will be a game changer for Doncaster, bringing increased stability and certainty, allowing us to rebuild our public services and continue on our ambitious path towards regeneration and prosperity. Thank you, Chair.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, in Mexborough, we lost our youth club after COVID in 2020. Despite some promised funding from the government at the time, never materialised. Mexborough is not an affluent area, but when it comes to a community spirit, our young people need something to do. We have some issues in Mexborough in relation to antisocial behaviour. Last June, I launched something I'd wanted to do for a long time, Mexborough Youth Cafe. With no funding whatsoever, but with the help of Doncaster Youth Hubs and a local cafe owner, I stole some of my grandchildren's board games, and we created a safe space for our young people to come along and have fun. Within a couple of months, we outgrew the cafe and had to move to a bigger space at Mexborough Resource Centre. There is a massive need for youth provision, not just in Mexborough, but across the whole borough of Doncaster. I would like to thank Mayor Jones and this Labour Council for recognising this need and for setting aside £1 million in her budget for youth provision in Doncaster. I am extremely excited at this additional youth funding to support the people across Doncaster, and I will, of course, be pressing for the case of Mexborough. Thank you.
Councillor Church.
Thanks, Chair. I welcome the £500,000 investment for city centre security and safety measures. Contrary to negative, inaccurate reports in the national media last week, all reported crime in Doncaster actually fell by 6.2% in 2024 compared to 2023. I must give credit to frontline officers and council partners who have worked so hard to achieve these welcome reductions in crime.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you. I would like to say that I'm very pleased to see that the government have allocated additional funding of over £6 million extended producer responsibility grant through the simpler recycling reforms. Residents of Doncaster will be able to recycle plastic pots, tubs and trays from April, which will be greatly appreciated and also enable increased household recycling. It is also important to point out that Doncaster, along with Barnsley and Rotherham, will remain exempt from having to recycle food waste separately due to our BDR partnership at Manvers.
If any other member wishes to speak, can you indicate now? Councillor Bluff.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'd just like to, party politics aside, I'd like to thank the finance team for the savings they have made, especially around the Send area. They have done a tremendous job in making savings there where they possibly can. It is an area under intense pressure, and I do know by sitting on the audit committee the extent that the finance team have done in terms of making those savings. So I'd just like to commend them. It is not really the revenue budget I'd like to see. I'd like to do a bit of an Elon Musk and start to remove some of the DII out of it. But I'd just like to commend the finance team for what they've done in those savings. Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Mayor Jones, would you like to respond?
Each year I sit here and put a revenue budget forward. And each year other people have got the opportunity to put forward a differing budget. However, none has come forward yet again. But more importantly, this budget does show hope to the areas. And can I just correct Councillor Bluff? The finance team actually do the figures, but the hard-working social workers actually do all the work as well to bring it forward. It's by working as a team you achieve great things. But with that, I would like to actually commend this budget to the council and ask for their approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The revenue budget proposals have been moved and seconded. We shall now move to the vote. I am now opening the vote. I'm closing the vote. The motion is carried by 31 yes votes, no abstentions, and 8 no votes. The revenue budget and recommendations detailed in the report are approved. Item 12, the housing revenue account budget. Can I invite Deputy Mayor Councillor Glyn Jones to introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This report sets out the housing revenue account as a balanced budget for 2025-26 and the medium-term financial forecast until 2028-29. The HRA budget includes a council house rent increase of 2.7%, in line with government policy on rents for social housing, which equates to an average weekly rent increase of £2.39. We anticipate remaining the lowest council house rent in South Yorkshire, the second lowest in Yorkshire, and one of the lowest in the country at £90.98 per week. We have carefully considered this recommendation due to the current economic climate and are pleased to be able to recommend an increase which is much lower than that of the previous 2 years. As a reminder to this chamber, 73% of our tenants will see an increase in their housing benefit and universal credit payments to cover the impact of this charge. Council house rents will continue to be significantly lower than those in the private sector. In Doncaster, we continue to have over 8,800 people on the housing register. With this rent increase, we will continue to maintain the standards and services for our current properties and tenants and provide additional properties to help alleviate the demand for housing and also support our efforts to tackle homelessness. We have a budget of almost £70 million over the next 4 years to build and acquire an estimated 365 additional properties. We welcome the changes to the right to buy regulations, and we are anticipating that these changes will significantly reduce the number of properties lost from the housing revenue account in future years. That, coupled with the announcement that has allowed us to keep 100% of the money from any right to buy sales, will enable us to increase property numbers further over the years ahead. The additional money that we can keep from right to buy sales, and the fantastic news last week that we have been awarded a £4.5 million grant to contribute towards the costs of a new build site at Cedar Road, that's in Bowlby South, will help to facilitate the further increase in the number of affordable homes the council can provide. The government has also announced in recent weeks that they are providing £300 million additional support for council house building nationally, and we will continue to bid for additional resources to support our other new build schemes that are also on site or in the pipeline. We can clearly see the impact that the new government is having on resources available to support council housing. We will never forget the services to our existing tenants and the properties that they live in, and therefore I would like to draw your attention to some of the other details within this report, also on the capital report, that are funded from tenant rents. The main items that I would like to mention are £47 million for investment in the external fabric of our properties, which includes energy efficiency improvements, and after listening to feedback from our tenants, investment in new windows. Additionally, £6.6 million of funding for ongoing fire safety works, and over £20 million for works to the inside of our properties, including kitchens, bathrooms and electrical upgrades. We have also included the funding for 3 new offices to create a no-access team, which will support our most vulnerable tenants to access the support that they need and assist us to access all properties for essential maintenance and health and safety. The HRA continues to fund an expanding apprenticeship programme within St Leger Homes, and this year we have funded 5 additional craft apprentices. 16 apprentices will be recruited in total this year to help with the skills gap and the ageing workforce that we're experiencing. All other fees and charges will be increased by the appropriate rate of inflation. I'm presenting this report to Council today and asking that the Council approve the HRA budget and the proposed increases to rent and other charges, including a medium-term rent settlement. Thank you, Chair.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Page now. That's it, thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to welcome the recent announcement of £4.5 million of government funding towards social housing on Cedar Road in Bowlby, and this council's wider investment of nearly £70 million over the next 4 years to build and acquire additional properties. This investment at Cedar Road will provide 48 plots, including a mix of much-needed larger family accommodation, bungalows and flats for those on the housing list who desperately need suitable properties. I fully support the efforts of this council to build and acquire new council housing, providing homes for those residents in need and at social rents. Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I fully support this housing revenue account budget. It will see significant investment in repairs and maintenance alongside the purchase of additional social housing for Doncaster families. Might I ask what the current waiting list, and I appreciate you've already mentioned it, Deputy Mayor, but what is the current waiting list for the social housing is within the city of Doncaster? And importantly, what we can do to reduce this figure. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any other member wishing to speak on this item? You need to indicate now before... Right. Councillor Jones, do you wish to exercise your right to reply? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I welcome the comments from both Councillor Dixon and Councillor John Healy. Absolutely, you've mentioned that we've got 8,800 people on the housing register, John, of which 453 are in the platinum band, which is quite a significant number. So they are the people who have got the most need and are desperate for housing. So in terms of trying to reduce this figure, we are building and acquiring more social housing across the piece. The new government have announced, as I said, to reduce the charges or introduce changes, to the right to buy scheme, and that will end the level of discounts that have previously been allowed to go forward. And it will also ensure that when a property is sold through right to buy sales, the revenues are also entirely kept within local government rather than sent across to national government, which was on a 50% sale price, which was sent to national government. So we're able to keep that on any properties that are sold going forward. But I do realise and I'm grateful to our government for reducing the discounts on right to buy. Thank you, Chair.
Approval of the housing revenue account budget has been moved and seconded. We shall now move to the vote. I am now opening the vote. Green for yes, red for no, white to abstain. Please vote now. I am now closing the vote. The motion is carried by yes 31, no abstentions and 8 noes. The housing revenue account budget as detailed in the recommendations within the report is approved. Item 13, council tax settings and statutory resolutions. Can I invite Mayor Ros Jones to introduce this item? Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. The City of Doncaster Council is the billing authority and is responsible for preparing the council tax base, setting the council tax, billing and collection of council tax, and maintaining the collection fund. This report details the council tax and statutory resolutions based on the legislative requirements and decisions taken by the relevant organisations, including the Revenue Budget Report considered earlier on this agenda. Core council tax to increase by 1.99% and an increase in the adult social care precept of 2%. Over 87% of domestic properties in Doncaster fall into bands A, B and C, with over 57% falling in band A, which equates to an increase of 84 pence per week. There is also the increase in council taxes of the joint authorities of South Yorkshire, Police and South Yorkshire Fire and Rescue, and any changes in town or parish council precepts as per the report. Doncaster will continue to have the lowest council tax in South Yorkshire, the lowest council tax in Yorkshire and one of the lowest overall in comparison to other councils of similar sizes in this country. Doncaster is an incredibly well-managed council, which is why we are still able to deliver the services we do for one of the lowest council tax rates in the country. We are a caring council, which is why we are committed to protecting the most vulnerable. And whilst many councils have amended their local council tax reduction scheme, our policy continues to provide a much-needed safety net for those who are most vulnerable and those on the lowest incomes, including pensioners, single parents, and those with complex needs or disabilities. I therefore recommend the council tax to the authority and to councillors.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Yutundi-Eblion.
Thank you, Chair. Can I say it is commendable that the City of Doncaster Council has managed to keep the council tax increase as low as possible, despite the vast majority of other councils across the nation planning to increase by the maximum of nearly 5%. As a Labour Council, we can be proud in the assistance that we offer to those in need, whether this be our local council tax reduction scheme or our local assistance scheme, which provide a much needed safety net for those who are most vulnerable and on the lowest income, including pensioners, single parents, and those with complex needs or disability. I wish to say that I'm proud of this achievement, as well as to be a Labour councillor that invests in a council that invests in Doncaster and our residents, while also keeping the council tax low, with not only the lowest in South Yorkshire, but the lowest in Yorkshire and one of the lowest across the country. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any other member wishing to speak?
I therefore request people support the proposals. Thank you, Chair.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the council tax for 2025 to 2026, including the council tax of the joint authorities, and to pass the appropriate statutory resolutions. We shall now move to a vote. Green for yes, red for no, white to abstain. I am now opening the vote. I am now closing the vote. The motion is carried by yes 31, abstentions 0 and noes 8. The council tax for 2025-2026 and statutory resolutions, including the council taxes of the joint authorities as detailed in the recommendations, are approved. Item 14, Annual Pay Policy Statement. Can I ask Councillor Jane Nightingale to introduce this item? Councillor Nightingale.
Thank you, Chair. The Pay Policy Statement sets out the Council's policy for the pay of the workforce, particularly senior staff, and details the ratios between the highest, lowest and average paid employees in the organisation. The policy statement is a public document and is published on the Council's website each year and clearly demonstrates a willingness to increase accountability, transparency, fairness in setting pay. It also includes information about where more detailed salary information is published as part of the Council's annual statement of accounts. It is proposed that the same format is used this year as in previous years, with the following observations. There have been changes to the ratios this year due to the 2024-25 National Pay Award being agreed and implemented. The ratio between the highest paid employee, salary of the Chief Executive, 183,756, and the lowest employee, salary of 23,656, has positively reduced from 8.02 to 7.77 to 1 this year. The ratio between the highest employee salary and average employee salary has also reduced from 5.46 to 5.36 to 1. Although the average salary has increased by £1,485 per annum. All pay ratios remain well within the threshold considered by the Hutton Review that should be no greater than 20:1. The Council remains committed to reduce the pay difference and increase low pay, and it is recommended to note the contents of this report and approve the pay policy statement for this year. Thank you, Chair.
Does any member wish to second this item? Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? No, thank you. It has been moved on that the report be noted and the pay policy statement be approved. Is that agreed? Thank you. The motion is carried. The annual pay policy statement is approved. Item 15, revisions to council contract procedure rules. Councillor Phil Cole, can we invite you to introduce this item, Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Chair. The contract procedure rules form part of the Council's constitution. The document before you today, you will see, has the most crossings out of any report that you'll have seen for quite a while. The purpose of showing the deletions and amendments in red was just to make absolutely clear what changes have been made from the rules as they previously existed. The Council's constitution provides the rules by which we operate as a council, how decisions are made and procedures that must be followed. The contract procedure rules set out the rules for how the council procures and contracts to ensure full compliance with the public procurement legislation, but at the same time ensuring effective and transparent practices that facilitate the achievement of value for money and social benefits. So the key things there, transparency in how we procure goods and services, and a guarantee, or as best we can, of value for money and the opportunity to achieve social value and social benefits for Doncaster and its communities. The proposed revisions have been brought about in the main due to the introduction of the Procurement Act 2023 and the subsequent Procurement Regulations 2024. That was legislation that commanded cross-party support under the Sunak government and has been implemented by the incoming Labour government. So there is no real party political dimension to this at all. It's only to help public bodies with the laws. It's been updated. The procurement legislation covers 10 or 12 different areas of procurement, from utilities, defence, public bodies, and actually was last updated in around 2015, 2016, and therefore those regulations were about 8 years out of date, and hence the government brought in new legislation to update the procurement rules. The legislation governs how public bodies, the council included, must conduct procurement and contract management activities, and failure to adhere to the legal obligations could result in significant consequences for the council, such as financial penalties. Certain other changes have been proposed to give clarity to council officers, by decreasing ambiguity and being more practical in their application. There is a substantial training programme that has been undertaken across the across the council and different departments, so that all of those officers at different levels who are involved in procurement understand their obligations under the new law and understand how to find their way through the procedures. There are no proposed changes to the council's discretionary contract value thresholds for when competition must be introduced. The provisions within the contract procedure rules to support local spend remain, and officers include local suppliers when contracting if possible. Members will be aware that Mayor Jones has always set as a very high priority achieving social value, but also the Doncaster pound, making sure that as much of our spending as we can benefits Doncaster firms and creates jobs within Doncaster. The provisions of the contract procedure rules to ensure social value outcomes are factored into contracting. They also remain. So that means it is not just price that determines the awarding of contracts. It's also what those firms give back and what they add to the community from the contract they fulfil. The recommendation is for the council to approve the amendments as proposed to ensure compliance with the new Act and to improve the rules, decreasing ambiguity for our officers and therefore making our procurement rules much more workable. Thank you, colleagues, and I hope you'll support these changes to the rules.
Does any member wish to second this item? Does any member wish to speak on this item? It has been proposed the final version of the contract. Did you say something?
Did we confirm that it's been seconded?
Yeah, well, everybody heard. Did I need to confirm that? Yeah. It has been proposed that the final version of the contract procedure rules as presented within Appendix 1B to the report be approved and that the revisions are incorporated within the council's constitution. Is the motion seconded? Is that what you meant? Yeah. Right, okay. I understand you now. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 16, questions by elected members. Questions on notice are to the executive. There is one question on notice at today's meeting from Councillor Jane Cox to Mayor Ros Jones. I shall read the question. Mayor Jones, how will you address the potential loss of public confidence if the promised spring 2026 flat... Is this right today? Yeah, sorry. I do apologise, Councillor Cox. Mayor Jones, how will you address the potential loss of public confidence if the promised spring 2026 flights from Doncaster Airport, Sheffield Airport, do not materialise due to the lack of airline commitments and funding delays? Mayor Jones, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question, Councillor Cox. I refer to the announcement I made at the beginning of this meeting, but in summary, we are continuing at pace with our airport due to reopen in spring 2026. In addition, there are significant business interests, and alongside Munich Airport International, we are looking to solidify these alongside discussions with airlines, whilst also progressing discussions with the Civil Aviation Authority to secure our airspace. The Simca decision is set for summer. However, we are continuing at pace to reopen our airport in spring 2026. Thank you.
Councillor Cox, do you want your right to reply?
Mayor Jones, many residents in Finningley Ward feel their lives are on hold as they do not know what is really happening. Some wish to sell up as they don't wish to live near airport, which is their right. 24-hour flights were mentioned by an officer at scrutiny. Is this the real reality for spring 26?
Do you wish to respond, Mayor Jones?
I will answer in the vein that I've given the answer of when we're hoping that the airport will open, which is in 2026. We've got operators now on board, which is Munich International, and they will be advising and progressing this forward. Thank you for your question.
Where am I up to now? Sorry. Oh, that's... If you just bear with me one moment. Sorry, I am going to have to take a moment. I just really need to cool down because things are moving on the page. What should we do in this situation? I just need to cool. Can we take a 5-minute recess, please? Thank you. Now we come to part 2 of item 16, questions without notice. Please use the button on your console to indicate if you wish to ask a question. Are there any questions to Mayor Ros Jones? Councillor Cox.
Civic stated that you as Doncaster Mayor have not asked any of the leaders of other South Yorkshire authorities to put any of their respective gain shares toward the airport. This week, 2 Doncaster MPs have stated that the airport will bring economic growth to South Yorkshire. Do you stand by your decision to fund the airport solely from Doncaster gain share? And how will you justify this to the other communities across our borough who will have their infrastructure projects put on hold for many years?
Would you like to respond, Mayor Jones?
This is Doncaster Airport. This is the city of Doncaster's airport. This is my #1 priority. Yes, others will gain, but we also know that when things are done within their boroughs, we gain. I stand by my decision because this is the right thing for Doncaster's people. This will be the most economic stimulus Doncaster can get, and that will be in the medium to long term. And we put our gain share forward. Doesn't mean to say it will all be there all the time. We will always be looking for other investments. So yes, I do, because I believe in Doncaster. I believe in the airport. And if you look at the business case and a 9 to 1% rate of return, it is unbelievable over the longer term. So this is the right thing, in my opinion, for Doncaster, and that is why I've continued to make it my #1 priority.
Do you have a supplementary question?
I'm not entirely convinced that Rotherham Station will bring the same revenue to Doncaster as Doncaster Airport will bring to Rotherham.
For them to put forward what they wish to see. I believe the airport, I am the Mayor of Doncaster, not the Mayor of Rotherham. They will be putting forward what they see as their priorities. This is our priority, I believe, and that's why I stand by. We go forward at pace to deliver for the people of Doncaster, Yorkshire and beyond.
Councillor Blake.
Thank you. Question regarding the airport again, and like many residents and businesses in our ward, absolutely delighted that the airport and the developments that you've announced. We have had some residents though who have contacted us to get the reassurance that in future the same safeguards that applied with the old arrangement would still be in place, such as the Noise Consultative Committee and other ways where residents could make their views known. Is there any, I know it's at a very early stage of development, but is there any reassurance that you could give to residents at this stage, please?
There is no proposal to change the air corridors that's there, and therefore what people experienced in the past would be the same. And I would always want to see proper consultative committees set up. But thank you for your question.
Would you like to ask us? Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. Ros, as you know, the ongoing house building at Rose Hill in Bessica is an extremely contentious issue, and there's been lots of problems caused, not least on the Avenue and Rose Hill Rise, the sort of problems that we highlighted in the planning committee that would take place, such as, for example, obstruction to paving and roads, so residents can't leave or access the site. And one of the biggest issues is actually the amount of mud and debris left on the paving, and it's causing a massive set of problems for all sorts of residents across the estate. None of this needed to happen, of course, had the site not been disposed of in the first place, but I do feel that more enforcement action could be taken by the council to try and ensure that the developer comply with the planning application as it stipulates that they would look after the place as their building is ongoing. Despite, numerous efforts to contact officers, it doesn't seem that, this is taken very seriously. And I'm aware of many of the residents in the residents committee who have effectively feel brushed aside, if not ignored. Would it be possible actually for you to commit to maybe visiting the site ahead of the election, because it is such a contentious site, to view for yourself some of the problems that people there are putting up with on an almost daily basis?
Can I just ask, have they actually notified the authority of the mud being left on the footpath prior to raising this in here?
Yes. Sorry, it has numerous times, as well as the developer Miller Homes as well.
As far as planning is concerned, as you know, I can't take part in planning, but I can ensure that whatever in that planning thing is carried forward, and if it requires enforcement to do it, I will ensure it goes to the relevant officers to actually acknowledge this and sort out the problem. This is a thing that we should always be doing, but thank you for your question.
Councillor Ransom. Do you want to do a supplementary? Is that something? No. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ransom.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ros. A conversation that comes up on a daily basis with residents in our ward is that they do not feel safe coming into Doncaster, coming into the Doncaster centre. Millions have been put into antisocial behaviour by both governments, but after 10 years, it is now reported to be the second worst city, most violent for sexual and violent crime, which is bad for business and residents. So how is this going to improve when investment has not worked?
We've just put in a further £500,000 to get more patrols so people do feel safer. We've just invested in more CCTV cameras in order to identify it, and we will work long and hard in order to sort these problems out. The investments have not been forthcoming in the past. As you know, we're going to come forward with 2 million over 10 years, and that doesn't come in until 26, 27, and therefore I've invested the monies in there to get it moving. But what I cannot do is sort out problems which are not of our making. We've got to do it in conjunction with the police, because by working together as a team, we'll be looking to sort out and make our place more vibrant. And you'll see more people living in our city centres. And you get more people living there, people feel more comfortable as they're walking around. So over the period of time, you'll see more city centre living. We've just got a new city centre plan that will be coming forward that will actually enhance the city centre. And therefore, I would encourage them to come in, because we have got more officers out there and enforcement also to make people feel safer. But that is working along with the police.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question? Is that, no, sorry. Councillor Steve Cox.
Thank you. I brought to your attention, Ross, an issue of an officer of this council wanting to influence us regarding a planning application. We had the conversation, you said you'd get back to me. We cannot tolerate officers wanting to influence councillors over this thing. We've been here before. I just want to know where we are with it.
As you know, councillors come under the chief executive, and I pass everything like this on because it's up to them to sort out. And if they've sought to influence planning, as you know, I can't get involved with planning. However, if we're not actually procedurally correct, it will be down to the officers.
Mayor Jones, can I bring Damien Allen in, please, the chief exec, to take this one?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Cox, more than happy. I don't have any of those details, but outside the meeting, if you'd like to convey them to me, then I'll follow them up directly.
Do you want to ask a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, because obviously I passed the details on to Ross, which I would have assumed would have been passed on to you, Damien. And obviously we'll pass that on to you, but there's obviously a breaking connection somewhere over such a serious thing. Thank you.
Yeah, are you wanting, act to play?
If you remember, I asked for you to put it in chapter and verse where it was, and in writing, and I pass on to the relevant, and it wouldn't have gone to Damien. Hang on, please. It wouldn't have gone to Damien, it would have gone to the director who's in charge of that. But we will follow it up again because we are a council that is well run, and therefore now you brought it to the attention of the chief exec. I'm sure he will take it up with the relevant director. Thank you.
Is there anyone else with a question for Mayor Jones? Right. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Glyn Jones, any questions? Councillor Nevitt.
Councillor Jones, housing portfolio. More social housing has been built in our ward. I note how few units there are in our ward, so will there be more social housing units available in our area in future?
Councillor Jones.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Thank you for your question, Councillor Nevitt. I don't have the specific information on Edenthorpe and Kirksandall ward specifically. However, with City of Doncaster Council and housing revenue, land is limited in your ward. So coming from that perspective, we'll have to really look at what we've got available and take that forward. However, I can expect from the amount of private house building in your area that through Section 106 and affordable rented accommodation will be coming forward from those developments. But I will look into this for you, Councillor Nevitt, and see if there's any available land to do any future projects, given the amount of money that we are being offered from central government and our desire to ensure that we've got good, proper housing stock for the people of Doncaster that our people deserve. Thank you.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Ransom.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jones. 2 months ago in this chamber, I asked a question about an enforcement which essentially started with Ledger Homes. I need to report to you that myself, Councillor Bluff, and the residents affected are no further forward. Can you help with this?
I can, Councillor, in some way, shape or form. And I do thank you for your question. And it was, when it was put some months ago, it wasn't actually put to me, as you will recall. It was put to Councillor Nigel Ball, if you do recall that, Councillor Ransom. So I understand that the legal team and St Ledger have apologised for the previous delays in this matter. And I understand that you have been advised that steps have been taken between the Council and St Ledger Homes to avoid a repeat of these issues moving forward. Since that point, St Ledger and the Council's legal service have been and continue to work closely on this matter with a view to issuing court proceedings to address the issues. Unfortunately, this has taken longer than anticipated due to the new information coming to light, which has required further work on preparing the evidence. Given the possibility of imminent court proceedings in this matter, it would not be appropriate for me to make any further comment at this stage. However, I have been assured by officers that this matter is now being progressed to an appropriate conclusion, and if court proceedings are issued and successful, the Council will seek an appropriate order and recover all of its legal costs. I hope that gives you some comfort, Councillor.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question?
It's not a question, it's to say thank you, but there is obviously people aren't talking to each other. We talk about partnership working, but we're not. So it's been a long, hard road, like 3 years, and we still haven't got a conclusion. So I would like to say thank you for the effort that you have put in, but not enough effort's been put in initially. And this is why we do have a problem with antisocial behaviour in Doncaster.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from, Councillor, and as I said, the legal teams and St Ledger have apologised for this lapse in this matter. Occasionally things do fall through the cracks in the pavement, but it's up to us as local councillors, and I look across the room here, to be aware of these and take immediate action if at all possible. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions to councillors Lainey Mayball, Nigel Ball, Joe Blackham and Sarah Smith, can you please put these in writing to the Executive Office as they've given their apologies for today's meeting? Any questions for Councillor Phil Cole? Councillor Glenbluff?
I just enjoy asking Phil Cole questions, so I hope this continues, Phil. Hopefully it's a relatively easy one for you. As you're probably aware, we publish on a regular basis the purchase card information on our website about the corporate spend on corporate cards. There are some spending on there for the last 3 published reports on there from 2024 of 78,000 that was spent to UKVI, which I understand is the Visa and Immigration Service. Are you aware of what this spend was for?
No, but if you put that in writing to me, I'll happily chase it up and try and get you an answer that gives you all the information you want.
Would you like to ask something else?
Yeah, just on that basis, at £78,000, I'm a bit surprised that you're not aware of what it was for. At what threshold would you expect to be aware of that kind of spending?
No, I was simply asking you to put all the details in writing, and then I'll gladly give you as full a reply as I can from the information I know and any other information I can extract from officers that help you give you the answer you need.
Councillor Jane Cox.
The airport has loaded a £363 million commitment onto the authority's balance sheet. What measures are in place to ensure its affordability and sustainability for Doncaster residents for such a long-term financial commitment?
Councillor Cole.
Sorry, is that one for me?
It's on the statements of accounts that belong to the audit committee.
Can you put your...
Well, I think it's probably an appropriate question, but obviously it's a question that requires a amount of detail. If you're not furnished with that detail, then genuine procedure to ask it out, to provide that information outside of the meeting.
Forgive me. No, sorry, Councillor Cox. It was just that all of the questions that were related to the airport I had expected were being directed to Mayor Jones. By all means, send me that information and your question, and I'll gladly get you as full a reply as I can.
Councillor Steve Cox. Sorry.
Sorry, Phil, it's on the statements of accounts that have gone to the audit committee, so I would have assumed for something so huge you would have noticed it.
Sorry, you'll have to forgive me, but the issue here is not whether or not I've noticed a particular piece of information or not. The issue is if you serve notice and you put the question in writing, then I'll gladly give you the answer here and now. But I'm not going to answer for every line of our accounts from questions that I've been given no notice, but I'll gladly... and I wouldn't expect the same of you either, but I'll gladly give you whatever information you require.
Councillor Steve Cox.
Thank you. In our last meeting, Councillor Cole, we discussed the 106 at Warren Park, and I believe that you said that you would find out who made the decision to use the bus franchising money. I've received the explanation in the minutes, but not how the decision was made and who decided to use that money that obviously the residents aren't going to see a bus.
Again, I'm sorry, I thought we had fully answered your question. I approved the answer that was put together for you. I think I said to yourself and to Councillor Bluff on related matters of trying to be as helpful as I could at the last meeting. Happy to look into that and try and get you whatever answer I can. I might come back to you for some clarification if I haven't fully grasped what you're asking.
Respond, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Durant.
Jones. Phil, in terms of car parking, would you be able to identify the level of income this council receives from car parking and how much it would cost to introduce free parking?
Yes, thank you very much for your question, Councillor Durant. I think the question of free parking is something which never comes at no cost to the local authority. It's not a free gift if the local authority provides all of the parking in town for free. We currently have costs in a year, if we offered free parking, of about £2.5 million. We spend £250,000 a year on maintaining that service. So £2.75 million would be the equivalent, to give that free, would be the equivalent of 2% on our council tax in a year. So you can understand that if anyone was to promise to do that, they would have to decide which of our frontline services were going to be cut to the extent of £2.75 million. I think that's a very serious challenge in the current circumstances and certainly going forward. So I know that Mayor Jones, who has occasionally offered discounted or free parking around Christmas time, busy times like that. But the idea that you could make any pledge like that, I think would be grossly irresponsible, given the threat it would make to our services. So I'm surprised that anyone would consider free parking as a general policy without telling us where those cuts are going to be made to services to fund that gift to the people of Doncaster. By the way, I think our parking charges are very reasonable as well.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question?
No, thank you very much for that explanation. Much appreciated.
Any questions for Councillor Sue Farmer? Councillor Robinson.
Edenthorpe and Kirksandall ward benefits from one of our primary schools, Edenthorpe Hall School, being included in the Labour government pilot for breakfast clubs. My question is, will council officers in our education service ensure that at local level, experience from the operation of the pilot is gathered and disseminated to enable good practice to be shared across the primary school system? And to analyse the impacts of this Labour government initiative, I ask because a nutritious breakfast and time to socialise benefits children, but most importantly, this scheme will lift the earning potential and job opportunities of many families and increase family incomes, taking children out of poverty.
Councillor Farmer, do you wish to respond?
Please. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'm pleased to see that 8 primary schools in Doncaster are taking part in this first phase of this historic programme, making sure that no child starts school hungry. The scheme also has an important role to play in the government's commitment to tackle child poverty. Our education officers, of course, will be on hand to support schools, and they will monitor this initiative in partnership with the schools and national government. Starting April, pupils will be offered healthy, varied and nutritious breakfast in schools before class. Parents will have the opportunity to drop off their children 30 minutes before their normal, usual school time, knowing they will be offered a free breakfast and helping parents in the early morning to rush off getting kids to school and start work earlier. Thank you for your question. Thank you.
You don't wish to ask a supplementary. Okay, is there anybody else? Councillor Kidd.
There are huge challenges nationally regarding services for children with special educational needs. How are we performing in Doncaster?
Thank you, Councillor Kidd, for your question. We are aware of the usually challenging national situation around children and young people with special educational needs are supported, and how hard this is for everyone involved. Despite this, in Doncaster, we continue to do what is right for our children and families, whatever their needs are. We are investing time and support into our mainstream schools to help them support children as effectively as possible. And we are connecting support for families in and out of school. Alongside increased advice and guidance to schools and our recent published SEND handbook, we have increased funding to main schools by 35% to support them with identifying and meeting needs as early as possible. We will continue to anticipate the needs for our children and build new provisions as we have with Barder Academy, Big Picture Learning, and the recent introduction of our 42 places in hubs for children with special emotional and mental needs, health needs. Our next steps will bring significant expansion of our special needs provision, both in specialist and mainstream schools over the next 4 years. We have commitment from our Cabinet to make an unprecedented level of investment in specialist places, so we can be confident that we can bring the needs of our children of all ages, regardless of their challenges. Thank you.
Would you like to ask a supplementary question?
I'm extremely pleased to hear about investment in extra places, and hopefully this will bring some children back into the local authority area and actually have that virtuous circle of saving much on our finances. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Jane, for that as well. As you can see, our success of bringing our children back into authority, 3 of our homes have received outstanding from Ofsted this past year. Thank you.
Would anybody like to ask a question to Councillor Mark Holbrook? Councillor Bob Anderson?
Mark, I welcome the tree planting across Doncaster, including my ward, where ward councillors helped to plant over 500 saplings yesterday. Could you give me a rough idea of how many trees have actually been planted across Doncaster so far?
Thank you very much, Councillor Anderson. At the top of my head, the current total, as I remember, is 39,795 trees planted and approximately 247,000 tree seeds sown / planted. That's the current total as we speak. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mark. Like I say, it's an initiative I really welcome, so thanks very much for that.
Councillor Laura Bluff.
Thank you, Chair. The Council is still allowing greenbelt sites to be sold and used for housing, despite now issuing a call for sites asking for landowners that are interested in delivering biodiversity net gain schemes on their land. So how many trees have been lost, and what is the biodiversity net loss on greenbelt developments such as Rose Hill?
Would you like to respond?
Okay, yeah, thank you for your question. At this moment in time, with regards to the tree planting, as you're probably aware of, this obviously cuts across the divide and cuts across all areas of Doncaster. But with the particular question that you're answering, I can't give you the exact answer to your question. I will ask you to put that in writing, of course. But generally speaking, the council is committed to obviously increasing the tree canopy in Doncaster from 13% to 17% across all of Doncaster. And we will take, obviously, those areas into account, which is including the green belt. Thank you.
Do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Thank you. So how many trees, well, the figure I've got is from what you stated in the last meeting, which was 333,686 that had been planted as part of the million tree target. How many have survived the planting so far? Because I'm obviously aware normally a significant amount don't survive planting.
Okay, thank you for that. We do provide obviously regular assessments throughout the year, and I do agree that there are trees that do not survive and perhaps perish. We do have obviously a water maintenance scheduling programme that is incorporated into the schedules, and that includes the work of street scene and also the sustainability unit. So even though there may be a small percentage, we do assess that, and obviously throughout the year and over the next number of years, the sustainability staff go out and actually assess what number of trees are actually still growing and what number of trees have perished. Thank you.
Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you, Chair. I've sat here through something quite bizarre today. For the first time in 4 years, Labour councillors are asking questions. I'm not an idiot, I know why. Mark, I'm not asking a political question. There's no political agenda. I've got a simple question and then my supplementary will explain it. Are you aware and do you know who Wolfgang Meyer is?
Do you want to explain who Wolfgang Meyer is?
Okay, what I will do, I will allow you the opportunity to explain to everybody in the chamber who Wolfgang Meyer is. Thank you.
So, in Doncaster, we have thousands and thousands of veterans that have served in Germany and who woke up this morning to the sad news that Wolfgang Meyer had passed away. Wolfgang Meyer operated what most people just look at as just a simple food truck. It was a shock to a lot of people that this man, that when young soldiers are out on exercise who are wet through, miserable, dejected, he would find them no matter where they were. The SAS could be on exercise somewhere, nobody knows where they are, and he would turn up, he would find them. And so a lot of veterans were very upset this morning. Would you join me in just putting on record that we support the veterans that are upset by this, and we would send commiserations to his family? And I just think, it's something we could put on record for that. Nothing else. No politics involved.
Do you wish to respond?
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Of course, any individual, organisation, or indeed veteran who helps obviously community and good causes, I would welcome and obviously support and obviously congratulate the work that they do.
Do you wish to say anything supplementary? Sorry? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm asking if I'm all looking all right. Yeah, Councillor Henshaw.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Councillor Holbrook a question, but just firstly to say that I welcome the investment in the budget for the flood defences in Scorthorpe. Julie and I are thrilled with the £1 million that will be spent to improve surface water and to provide sustainable drainage in Scorthorpe. So can you outline some of the key projects for tackling flooding in Doncaster, please?
Yeah, thank you for that. I also welcome as well the obviously record investment in flooding projects to better protect homes in Doncaster. And again, I commend the work that yourself and obviously Councillor Grace are doing in Scorthorpe. There are two other projects, as you probably well know, the Scorthorpe Crescent flooding scheme, and also the work that you've done with local school children in Castle Hills to work with sustainable drainage. On top of that, you are correct, there is £1 million investment that's going into Scorthorpe as part of the Doncaster, Immingham and Grimsby scheme, along with Clay Lane. So, yeah, investment in further projects as well as that will include areas such as Conisborough, Tickhill and Bawtry. It's outlined in the report. But I just want to expand just on that. Obviously, the mayoral priorities is to protect homes in Doncaster, to better protect them, and that is a priority. 3.3 million increased investment, including 8.8 million, or part of the 8.8 million rather, that will better protect homes. Other areas, if I'd like to expand, are Kearsley Brook. There are 4 areas in Kearsley Brook in catchment area that will benefit from natural flood management as part of the investment. There is also £500,000 going into Dufton's Close in Conisborough, which will obviously help local people. There's 17 properties there that will benefit from that investment. And there's £150,000 going into flood barriers, which cut across the divide in Doncaster in 5 areas and 5 locations, which will stop vehicles going through flooding areas to obviously safeguard them in those times of need. And of course, Bawtry as well. We have investment in Pastures Road and Wentworth Court to address the surface flood water. And one of the largest schemes we've got is indeed in Bentley. We've got up to £6 million, which is earmarked as part of the investment to address 2 flood risk schemes in Bentley. So what I would say is that this council and the mayor is committed to obviously addressing the flooding issues due to the inclement weather and much of the flooding issues and the storms that we face on a regular basis annually. So I do welcome that, and I welcome the investment. Thank you.
Do you want to ask a supplementary question?
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's just to say thank you, really, and to note that obviously flooding is an emotive subject. So I think our residents will be reassured by the work that's going to be undertaken. So thank you for that.
Do you want to respond to that?
No, thank you very much. Just welcome the question. Thank you.
Councillor Bluff.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, Mark. Just a question regarding flooding, similar subject. Obviously, in the last 4 years, 7 times I've donned my waterproofs and gone down the riverbanks in Sprotborough to go and help the residents there and rescued the odd sheep as well. But Councillor Call and I went down there over 12 months ago to go and have a look what could be done regarding some of the flood defences there, including some gates. And Councillor Call correctly identified that there was a risk of the water coming in regarding some of the pathways that are there. I've not seen those engineers come back. Are you aware of any of the works that are going to happen regarding that part of Sprotborough near the boat in order to prevent those residents from having flooding again and making it an 8th time?
Thank you for that, Councillor Bluff. I am aware of most issues around Doncaster. With the particular area that you're actually relating to, we are aware that obviously some areas such as Sprotborough, at times of flooding, do have their fair share of water sort of egress and ingress into those areas. Again, if you wish to sort of raise that to me privately, any particular area that you feel has not been addressed, I'm quite happy to deal with that, and I'm quite happy to obviously work with Councillor Cole and get that answer to you.
Do you wish to ask a supplementary? Does anybody wish to ask a question to Councillor Jane Nightingale? Are there any questions to chairs of committee? I have got the Audit Committee, Councillor Austin White, the Chair of Elections and Democratic Structures, Councillor Emmy Muddyman Rawlins, the Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, Councillor Nigel Ball, have all given me apologies. So if anybody has any questions to these, can you send the questions in writing to the Government Service Team? Has anybody got any questions to the Chair of OSMC, Councillor Jane Kidd? Right. Item 17, the summary of Council motions 2021 to 2025. This report is for information only and provides a summary of Council motions on notice for the period of May 2021 to 2025. The report also recommends a regular review of motions on notice by Council moving forwards and contains advice to members on how they can ensure motions on notice are effective and do not compromise or circumvent agreed decision-making processes. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Can I ask a member to move that the recommendations in the report be noted, endorsed and endorsed? Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 18, annual report on executive decisions taken under special urgency provisions. This report is for the information only and the details the key decisions that have been taken under Special Urgency Procedure Rule 16 during the period 26th of February 2024 to 25th of February 2025. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Can I ask the member to move the report to be noted? Is that noted, yeah? Item 19, minutes of joint authorities. The minutes are included as a hyperlink on your agenda to enable you to view them online. These minutes are included for information and not endorsement. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Can I ask a member to move that the minutes be noted? Thank you. Item 20. A vote of thanks to retiring councillors. Members, as you are aware, this was the last full council meeting of the current municipal year, and therefore the last meeting for some councillors who have chosen not to stand again to represent their ward as at the council elections in May. On behalf of the council, I would like to propose that we place on record our best wishes and warmest thanks to acknowledgement their hard work, dedication and service to their local communities and to the people of Doncaster, and the manner in which they have fulfilled their duties as board members during their term in office. We wish you all the best as you move on to the next chapter in your lives. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Just a minute. Councillor Yetunde Ebellion.
Thank you, Chair. A few years ago, I was sent by my local church to start a parish at Botry. Having lived in Doncaster for many years, I had only ventured to suburbs on a very few occasions. The challenge I had initially was connecting with the community. So I reached out to the parish council, and this led me to be invited to a leadership meeting where I met Councillor Rachel Blake for the first time. My meeting with Rachel changed the trajectory of the cause because it brought an end to the roadblocks and barriers I'd been experiencing. The very first day I met her, she booked me in her diary for a face-to-face meeting. Rachel listened to my story and showed me a lot of compassion. She encouraged me to look beyond the present and forge ahead in my plan to serve the community. Without going into much detail, I served the Botry community for over 3 years successfully at the library, the church, events, and various celebrations. Watching Rachel exemplify a dedicated public servant attribute made me to think, well, I could do that. Although my decision to join politics was a personal one, observing Rachel and learning under her wings put a little bit of confidence in me. Rachel showed me how to put personal touch to every conversation with ward members as I watch her relate with our community with a deep understanding and compassion. Yesterday, I was going through my archive when I came across an animated video I did for Rachel 6 years ago to promote the community activities at Botry and Austerfield. I watched Rachel advocate for health and well-being of our community. She was always at the forefront of numerous projects. I can never forget the first event I had at Botry in 2019 when Rachel had to rush in to attend from a litter picking session. I still have a picture to this very day. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Rachel will reach out on many occasions to me to request for support for our community from Knowledge Pool. It's amazing how she knew everyone by their first name and the warmth she displayed towards them. When I became a politician, it was only natural to run to her. Because what I thought was easy as pie turned out to be the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. Rachel's support and those of my colleagues saw me through the first few months of me getting elected. Her support has been a beacon of hope for me, guiding me through difficult times and challenges. Today, as we celebrate Rachel's achievement, it is apparent that her legacy will endure. The policies she has implemented, the initiatives she has championed, and the values she has instilled will continue to shape our community for years to come. Rachel, I know that your departure from the public office marks the end of an era, but it also signals the beginning of a new chapter. I am confident that your influence will continue to be felt and your contribution will be remembered with gratitude and utmost respect. I join your colleagues today to appreciate the hard work you have put in and how high you've held your head. I also personally want to thank you for standing up and getting counted.
Can you start to wrap up, please, now?
Thank you for being a familiar face in the room for me. And thank you for taking me under your wings. Most importantly,
thank you.
Thank you for the service
thank you.
to the city of Doncaster. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Glyn-Jones.
Yes, Chair, if you'll indulge me, I'm actually commenting on 2 retiring councillors. So I'll start with Councillor John Father Christmas Higley. I don't know why they call him that in Bowlby, but they do. He was first elected to the authority in May 2015. What many people don't know is that John previously stood South Yorkshire County Council for elections. Some years previously was a councillor on that particular body. Am I right, John? So in 2015, after he was elected, it's sad after 10 years that John's standing down. However, he has served the people of Bowlby South Ward and the city of Doncaster extremely well for 10 years. In that time, John has served on the Planning and Audit Committee and was a member of the Housing Panel. He stood down from Audit Committee in 2016 to become the Vice Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, a position he stayed in for 6 years. In the last few years, John has served on the Audit Committee for a second stint and also served on the Licensing Committee. As a member of the Audit Committee, he served as the Chair of Audits Reserve in the Chair's absence at the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. From Simca, he is their representative on Transport for the North. Within our group, John is an outstanding asset, always present and willing to assist and move forward with any task handed to him. As is widely known, John and his very supportive wife Linda no longer live in Bowlby, but have recently moved to be closer to his sons and to be part of that wider family mutual network of support. So now I'll move on to Councillor Tracy Moran, who joined the authority 4 years ago in May 2021 at those elections, and that was following the early and untimely sad demise of Councillor Nuala Fennelly, and has been a dedicated and active member ever since. Tracy, with her forensic knowledge of the Bowlby area, stood her in good stead to continue with that previous good work. Tracy is very passionate about children and young people's services, having served on a number of children and young person related committees and panels, namely the Children and Young Persons Scrutiny Panel, the Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education Panel, SACRE, and also on corporate parenting. Tracy remains highly respected, caring and a devoted member of the Bowlby South community, who has faced all the challenges of the role in a fair, robust and resolute manner, entirely befitting her lovely and charming character. Both Councillor Healy and Councillor Moran have helped their ward communities by helping with funding from the councillors' ward budgets, having supported the local food banks and food distribution via Morrison's in Bowlby, and also supporting the local kickboxing and martial arts club, Conde Rui. I hope I've pronounced that. I probably haven't, but there you go, which is based in Bowlby. I wish them both well going forward with their lives and their future adventures, which I'm sure will continue. Thank you, colleagues.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm reading this out on behalf of Councillor Gemma Cobby, who's had to go. It's for Dave Shaw. So, Dave has been a great ward colleague, mentor and friend over the years I have been elected. He has been a strong advocate for the environment and fighting climate change, along with leading the Licensing Committee as chair in recent years. One of Dave's biggest achievements as a councillor and animal rights champion was when he notably campaigned against illegal market trading of reptiles events that was proposed at the Doncaster Racecourse in 2022. His hard work led to the end of contractual agreement of these events taking place at the venue and putting an end to animals being sold in plastic takeaway tubs at public events in Doncaster. We thank him for his tireless hard work throughout the 11 years as a councillor. He will be greatly missed by colleagues, residents, trade unions and partner organisations who he has worked with during his time. I would also like to, on the back of that, personally thank Dave. I've worked with him for a few years now on licensing. We've had a great time, as I would also like to say that to Linda as well. We've had some laughs and some good times, so thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Feeling very proud and hugely privileged to have served alongside Linda Curran and Duncan Anderson in the Hatfield crew, or as I would say, me and the two redheads. Linda is the most generous and supportive person I know, who was guided and sometimes pushed when needed. Her knowledge of our area is amazing and legend. Out in the ward, it is impossible not to meet either a relative or a friend of Linda's. She will be much missed, but is looking forward to a happy retirement with her family. Thank you, Linda. Duncan has always been our quiet, measured voice of reason, whose wide knowledge and advice I will miss. Can't forget to mention my absolute respect of his chairing skills. And just to say, I don't believe we've heard the last mention of the name Duncan Anderson. So thank you, Duncan.
Councillor David Nevitt.
Chair, I would like to speak about Councillor Ian Pearson from the Conisbrough and Denby ward. Unfortunately, his ward colleagues are not here today, so I will be brief, unlike Ian. Ian was an excellent Civic Mayor following my year, continuing the great work of and meeting many Civic Mayors and leaders across the UK. Whilst Ian has a disability, he worked through everything positively. His attendance at licensing committee and other committees were always entertaining, as he had a vast knowledge from his other interests. He attended many of his allocated meetings, even though he had various obstacles. His assistant's dog was always well behaved in the chamber and was a huge asset to him until it retired. Ian's experience will be missed at all the committees he attended. Well done, Ian, and thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
I've known for a while that Rachel Blake would not be standing for re-election in May, and believe me, I have spent many an hour trying to get her to change her mind, to no avail. When I first became a candidate 4 years ago, having Rachel by my side, helping me, guiding me, and giving me advice was invaluable, and nothing was too much trouble for her. I believe I have become a better and more confident councillor thanks to the incredible support from Rachel. I think one of the reasons we have got on so well and worked together so well is because we both have the same high work ethic and give the role of being an elected ward councillor the utmost respect. And believe me, Rachel wouldn't have it any other way. It's not all been work. We have had many a social evening together, many of them charity events where we've been able to unwind a little and share many laughs together. Sorry, Rachel, but I can remember a pop quiz event in which my team beat Rachel's team by 1 point. I could tell she wasn't happy, but I don't think it helped that I kept waving my winning bottle of Prosecco in the air. You do know I will keep reminding you of this. I have had the pleasure of meeting Rachel's wonderful family and likewise Rachel mine. and we have all got on so well. We may have initially met because of local election, but it has evolved way beyond that. I have seen firsthand the effort and commitment that Rachel has put into the role, and heard and spoke to so many residents that have told me how high esteem they do hold her. The wonderful job she has done over the last 10 years, and that is testament to the commitment she has given the role of being a ward councillor. Rachel, you may be stepping aside as a councillor, and believe me, you will be greatly missed. But more importantly and personally for me, I have gained a very special friendship for life, and that's something I will always cherish. Rachel, I wish you all the happiness and success for the future, and on behalf of the residents in our ward, myself including, thank you for everything you have done over the last 10 years. It will always be remembered. Thank you.
Councillor Blake.
Thank you. So I have the pleasure of giving a vote of thanks to Councillor John Mounsey, who has been 25 years as a councillor. So 25 years serving the residents of his ward, and 25 years have been on residents' side. But John is much more than just a ward councillor. He's a great friend to many in this room, a great support and a source of great wisdom for many of us. Whenever there's a new councillor, John is always the first to welcome people with friendly words of advice and guidance. John's career over the last 25 years has included many different roles within the council and made a huge difference to Doncaster, but it's his role as a ward councillor which we all know is John's love. Having sat in a number of meetings with John as a cabinet member, he is a huge advocate for getting the best for his residents, and I know how much they hugely appreciate him. Your contribution, John, to the debate on making care experience a protected characteristic when you asked us all to stand up and clap captured the moment more than any words ever could. It meant so much to the young people, and you're included in a national organisation video for the response that you got. John, we are all going to miss you hugely, your colleagues in the chamber, your residents, and I know when in COVID you weren't allowed to have your surgeries, you sat in your car because you have this absolute devotion to being such an amazing public servant. So we all want to wish you well, John. I know you'll have a lovely, lovely retirement, if we can call it that, with Val and your family. But most of all, John, I just really hope Sunderland get promoted.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Yes, Councillor Nightingale.
I'm not going to stand up. I'm better sat down, to be quite honest. So, Charlie, you were elected in 2011 for the Bentley ward, taking at that time 61% of the local vote. And there's so much we could say, but I'm going to keep this brief. You've been an absolute pleasure to learn from, and the knowledge you've given me is immense, valuable and supportive. For this, I thank you for your guidance and support. You're not going to make me cry. I'm determined. I ain't good, thanks. I will miss you, and I know Bentley will, but you'll still be around. You've been a huge stalwart representing Bentley and the community. Your passion for the library, and God don't we know it, and the support for events and the community groups has been recognised and is being constantly. You've been there and fought so hard for that library, Charlie, I know it. But we can't let you go without recognising your knowledge. And that's your knowledge for riparian ownership and visibility displays. Every meeting that we go in, if there's anything to do with a dike or a junction, Charlie goes on and on and on regarding riparian ownership and visibility displays. So we'll miss that. But we will remember how much you dearly love to address those 2 words, or 3 words, constantly. So, Charlie, as you retire from council, I'm going to miss you. You've done a lot for me, Charlie. But James and I wish to thank you on behalf of the community for everything that you've done, and we wish you well for the future. But don't forget, we will still need your help to volunteer at the events to be held in the future, and definitely on the firework night, when we stand together on those gates and argue of which pile the coins are going in. And Charlie says, just use the pound coins and the 50p's and get rid of the rest. So you're still coming along, and we will miss you. But I was elected, Charlie, in 2012, and you'll be my guide all the time. So from me, thank you.
Councillor Jane Cox.
Unfortunately, Alan isn't here today because he's gone to see his daughter in Australia. But I'd like to say thank you on behalf of all the Conservative group and Steve and myself. Alan's been a councillor for over 23 years, I believe. Nick's better with numbers than me. 21, sorry, there you go. He's served on lots of committees. He's kept you on your toes. He's known for being grumpy. And trust me, he's grumpy with us as well as you. We have the same. But we'd like to wish him and Liz a long and happy retirement.
Councillor Steve Cox.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to everybody. That politics aside, Charlie, John, Rachel, you know, we've all worked together, and it's been fantastic. And thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? On behalf of the council, I wish to formally record a vote of thanks to our retiring councillors to recognise their valued services to the city. Is that agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Right. Members, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business at today's meeting. I now declare the meeting closed.